I wanted to report on just a couple things today. One is the ongoing, as it's sometimes called, the FAFSA fiasco. I gave you a summary last month of what's going on, but I think it's really important that you understand the impact across all of our campuses. The situation is getting better, but it is still not, it's not fixed, and it's still impacting students who plan to enroll in college this fall. Most of the issues relating to be able to receive the status from the federal government have been resolved, the ICERs. So our campuses are now receiving those, which is great. That was not the case last time. The universities have gotten theirs loaded into Banner, our student information system. Community colleges are a step or so behind. But we did notice errors in the data that came back from the federal government, and they are now reprocessing those. If you can believe it, their estimate is that nationally as many as 30% of the forms filed by students have been affected by known errors in the data that has been sent back to universities all around the country. So the rate of reprocessing those is depends on which kind of error it is. And we don't really know the timeline for all of that. The federal government is suggesting that schools can exercise their judgment to use data that might be incorrect. So our campuses are really being placed in a difficult situation to try to decide how to do that. And I want to acknowledge Associate Vice President Farah Marie Gomes for continuing to work with all 10 of our campuses together to try and keep everybody moving forward. In addition, students sometimes make errors themselves in what they submit. That estimate is about 16% nationally, so 1 out of 6. And the federal government was not accepting those changes that students needed to make until last week in a test mode. So now they are open up for students to be able to make corrections if they made a mistake. And those can be as simple as missing signatures or failing to consent to access tax data. But, you know, there's, as you can see, a lot of challenges. So that's the kind of the national landscape on this. We are starting to award aid to students that does not require the FAFSA information. So that's merit aid, regents and presidential scholars, chancellor scholarships, provost scholarships, and that can go ahead because it's not dependent on this process. Everybody else is now moving ahead a little bit slowly. Every one of these changes requires a software upgrade on our side. So we have phase 4 of our Banner upgrade for this project scheduled for next week. I guess the good news that I'd say is we're now reaching the point where our financial aid offices at our campuses can do what they wish they were doing last fall. So all is not lost, but all is very, very delayed. And we continue to have discussions about what we can do to try to help students so that they can understand their financial position, so that they can make a decision about where they would like to enroll in the fall. Nationally, all of this has resulted in about 40% fewer students even completing the FAFSA. Within Hawaii, as of the most recent numbers, that about 25% of our high school seniors have completed a FAFSA. That is terrible. Last year at the same time, that number was over 53%. So less than half compared to last year. Our P20 program is continuing their FAFSA hotline. So we're doing everything we can to encourage students to complete the FAFSA. And hopefully once we are packaging, which if the federal government does its part and the software upgrade comes in, should be sometime this month, that will encourage students to begin to complete the FAFSA if they haven't. The second item I wanted to update you on is broadband. Last month, I let you know about our work to lead what really is a generational advancement of broadband infrastructure for Hawaii. UH had been recognized as the lead organization by our congressional delegation, our governors, our legislature, to make a responsible investment of hundreds of millions of dollars of federal infrastructure funds. Among our major goals has been the implementation of an open access inter-island fiber network and landings that will serve the state in multiple ways. And at least two of those landings are intended to also help connect Hawaii to the outside world through trans-Pacific fiber systems. And a lot of work is happening in the Pacific there. And as we had hoped, these federal investments and the way they're being deployed here to create these new open access submarine landing fiber stations on multiple islands have attracted substantial commercial interest in really reestablishing Hawaii as a hub in the Pacific. And this is a role we used to play and we largely lost 20 years or so ago with advances in technology. So the best public evidence of this was an announcement last week as part of the US-Japan White House Summit between President Biden and Prime Minister Kishida. And as part of their announcement, Google announced their next steps for a Pacific strategy with fiber, including new fiber optic connections among the west coast of the US, Hawaii, Guam, the Northern Marianas, and Japan. And there are other private parties besides Google that have unannounced that are interested in new trans-Pacific connections to Hawaii as well, leveraging this infrastructure. So Vice President Yoshimi is maintaining contact with all of these parties under pretty strict non-disclosure agreements. While the planning takes place in private for competitive reasons, once decisions are made, these major players tend to move pretty quickly. So we're working hard to bring to reality these opportunities to leverage private investment with the public investment in infrastructure for Hawaii. So after consultation with board leadership after the last meeting, we do eagerly anticipate bringing forward to the full board within a month or two a request for board approval of new private partnerships in the context of our continued involvement in this larger statewide broadband effort. The private partnerships would complement and hopefully be implemented synergistically with the federal investments that we had previously shared with you that were transacted through RCUH since they were extramural investments. And we are also working very hard to ensure that UH engagement results in direct benefits to our mission of education and research and serving our students. The last thing I want to mention before turning it over for the campus reports is just an update on our extramural funding in general. 2 days ago, when I got my daily report, we had crossed $500 million, so over $500 million for the third year in a row of other entities, mostly federal government investment in Hawaii. This is pretty astonishing to have hit this point while we're still in April. It's about a 30% increase in where we were last year, which was under $400 million. And while UH Manoa, our research university, is leading the way, as of this week, all of our academic units, Hilo, West Oahu, and community colleges are all ahead of where they were last year. So it's doing very, very well.